If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
The Cavil Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cavil.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
T. Madden and Associates is a sophisticated and experienced law firm located in your neighborhood. We're turning injury to cash.
T. Madden and Associates obtained almost $2 million for my injury. They turned my injury to cash.
Now, we can't guarantee how much your injury is worth, but we've recovered millions for our clients.
Call T. Madden and Associates at 833-PAID-123. That's 833-PAID-123.
Stride K-12 powered schools are ready to put over 20 years of being a leader in online education to work for you. Dive into curriculum design for the online classroom. Team up with state-certified teachers trained in virtual instruction. Take control of your child's education journey. Discover the power of personalized learning with a leader experienced in preparing kids for a future they can be excited about. Take charge. Stride K-12. Enroll now for the fall.
Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. As you see, Mike Washington and Charles Bishop are not here, so we got the Sunday crew with the sports wrap. That's Brian and AD to hold down those spots. And, you know, you see AD Drew quite regular as we promoted him to assistant professor on the tenure track. Brian Forford has been in the building, and he is a professor adjunct is what we call him. We're trying to step him up to get him into clinical professor where he's a regular. But, you know, he got to go through the grind. He got to make sure he did his correct preparation. You know what I'm saying? We got to make sure that he's schooled and ready to deliver to the lab listeners. But I think he's there. I think he's there, and it's good to have him. With that being said, welcome to episode 408, inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast that is covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small, from the NEIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, that's DrKenyatta. So follow me on Facebook and Twitter, as well as Instagram, along with my co-host, Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. And today, as I said, it's Brian Fulford and AD Drew. We're filming from our home studios in Sydney, Signal Live, the KCOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer. That is Mr. Ralph Cooper, multi-Hall of Famer, I should say, in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. As you see, I'm shooting from our home studios. You all see that traditionally on the Sunday mornings, and it's quickly approaching where it's appropriate that we bring them back. But today is the holiday, so for those that do celebrate July 4th, happy July 4th for you. Hopefully for more of y'all, you at least are getting the day off, which certainly is dynamic in regards to what that looks like. With that being said, let me get to these fine gentlemen over here. Brian Fulford, Professor Fulford, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Doc. It's good to be here with you. Woke me up out of my my afternoon nap, my coma on the couch, and so it's good to be awake. Good to be awake. Good to be on with you.
No doubt about it. With that being said, AD Drew, looks like you on the road or someone not at home, because I see you got one of them boys in the background. You know, Mike would get all excited about it. I don't know what the boy represents, but you need to be more careful in terms of what you representing.
He didn't even see that up there, Doc. He didn't even know that was up there.
I don't think you hate people out there.
You can't touch it either.
I refuse to touch it. I am at one of my college buddies' house in Tallahassee, Florida, celebrating the holiday with him. But while everyone else is here celebrating Independence Day, there's about 3 or 4 of us who have ties to Tuskegee. So we are having our Founders Day cookout in the midst of their Independence Day cookout, Dr. Cavil.
I like that. Good. And congratulations, certainly. Happy Founders Day to Tuskegee, yourself, as alumni, and all the others out there. What is the board back there for all those that are curious, these viewers out here? Just tell them what's on there so they'll know. Some people represent somebody. Alpha Phi Omega, is that what that is? That is
A5Q, Alpha Phi Omega.
Business.
Yeah, but partner, he was he was big in the fraternity when he was in college, and even though I did not join this fraternity, that still don't stop him from being my boy. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt.
It's deeper than those type of blood.
Friends out there. I just want to make sure I give the appropriate love to your buddy out there and all his folks. You know, we shared. This is the HBCU sport culture. As you know, we say it, the sporting HBCU diaspora. So it includes fraternities and marching band, marching sport, as we like to call it, sorority. So, you know, we give love, good love. Just like I got, you know, we're excited about the football season, but I put on a little basketball love out there. Got Texas Southern, Norfolk State at the bottom here. We got A&T Aggies, North Carolina A&T Aggies in Hampton. So I thought I'd do it a little differently today and represent basketball, as it'll be upon us pretty quickly, as many could imagine as well. With that being said, today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency. THG Agency is a company that provides sporting and educational consulting and data analytics. Let me go back to you, Brian, as we just talked with Professor Drew. Brian, what's some HBCU sporting news of the day that's on your mind?
Well, Doc, I'm thinking ahead here, as this upcoming weekend we have the HBCU Swingman Classic coming up, and that's going to be the kickoff to the MLB All-Star Weekend this Friday, July 7th at T-Mobile Park. 7:30 Pacific time, which is 10:30 on the Eastern time. So we're going to have to stay up late to kind of watch these young brothers out there. But it's a great opportunity here as Ken Griffey Jr. In sort of his home city of Seattle, where he was drafted and where he first made a big name for himself, that, you know, they are going to be hosting that game. And he was a major influence in this event happening. And so it's a great opportunity in conjunction with the MLB development program. I think it's 50 Division I HBCU baseball players are going to get an opportunity to showcase their skills at you know, in the ballpark at a high level in front of major league scouts. And so the dream for many of these guys will get an opportunity to continue. And I think that's what is what's so cool. I just hope I can find a way to stay awake for it.
No doubt about it. Like you said, I have to make sure I stay up a little bit and go in there and get me some snacks to make sure I get up for it, because I got to see it. You're right. But it's going to be a little late, wee hours of the evening for us here in the Central, especially for you in the Eastern time zone.
Oh, yeah.
With that being said, let me go to AD Drew and see what he wants to talk about in terms of the HBCU sporting world.
Not sure how my audio is. I'm
you good?
I'm a little choppy, so if I'm not good, please let me know. Thank you, Doc. If you don't mind, Doc, can I go off the beaten path for just a moment? I don't even want to talk about HBCU news. I don't want to go. I don't want to go political. I just got to ask this question, Doc. Barbecue or cookout? Which one do you go to, and what's the definition? We all get together on holidays like this. Is it a cookout or is it a barbecue? I'm at a cookout. I don't know about nobody else, but I am officially at a cookout. You know, for me, a cookout is when you have more than family and friends gathering in a place. You've got activity inside, activity outside, and you don't know half the people there. That's a cookout. When you know everybody who's there, it's a barbecue. And when you got one kind of music outside, as we had, you know, we had the old school, we had the blues and southern soul outside versus inside, where you've got the younger generation, the hip hop, the R&B, and everything else. You know, that's officially a cookout. And last but not least, Doc, I need to know, when you take your plate home, are you one of the people who get the leftover 10 and put your food in the leftover 10? Or you one of the people who get one plate, fill up the one plate, put another plate on top of the other plate and take it to the car? Or you one of the people who come with your own clam shell? Those are my questions. You know, let's not a whole lot of news out there. Let's get some of these life questions out the way.
I will start at the end. I've got to the point where I bring my own Tupperware to take home. So I don't want to bring all these plates.
Oh, you go to Tupperware. You don't even go to clamshell. You just get Tupperware.
Yeah, I'll do the plate. But yeah, I bring my own Tupperware, you know. Because where I'm going, it's going to be friends. So what we call it is a party. I don't know what, you know, we're in Texas. We just call it a party. But as long as you don't call it a picnic, I'm fine with you. You can go in either one of those directions. More often, as we say in Texas, you have people that have come in, so they're probably going to call it more a barbecue than a cookout. But I'm good with either or in the direction is, again, as long as you don't use picnic. But at the end of the day, essentially, for the people I deal with in my age group, we just call it simply, if you would, we just call it a party. We're going to have a party because it's going to last all day, all night until folks get tired and go home and tear stuff up. But I like it. Good point. But on the baseball part of that, as you said, Brian, I do want to add in that baseball players made the Team USA National Collegiate roster. To your point, North Carolina A&T right-handed pitcher Xavier Meacham and 3 other HBCU players will represent America this summer in what could be a summer to remember. He and 2 other Black college baseball players were named to the USA team, which was pretty cool. It's a dream come true. Quoted Meacham was saying, "It's very exciting to play for your country. It's very exciting to represent African-American baseball players with that going on. In terms of some of the other players, you have Southern, Nicholas Wilson, and Alabama State pitcher Omar Melendez. The USA Chinese Taipei International Friendship Series will start Friday, end of July 4th, on July 4th, which games at the National Training Complex in Durham Bulls Athletic Park in Durham, Atrium Health Paul Park, and Kananapolis Segra, I should say, Stadium in Fayetteville as well. So pretty cool there to get information there. I did like the fact that y'all said before we go to this break, I did like on your show, for those that didn't go catch it, make sure you go check Sports Wrap from Brian and AD. I like the way that y'all broke down. We didn't have the major news we've had the last couple of years where folks were making an announcement before July that they would be moving to another conference the previous July. So we didn't have that type of news, but you did have the deadline where teams were welcomed in to their new conference that they announced a year or two ago, depending on who they were. Obviously, a lot of folks were familiar with A&T getting fully into Colonial in terms of their football program going in. They went the other sports for that. You talk about Stillman, Talladega. You mentioned the fact that they're starting their foray from the NAIA component. So that's fascinating. But the one that I got most excited about, I must admit, in a lot of ways there, is the University of the Virgin Islands moving into the Gulf Coast Athletic Conference. And so now I have a reason to make sure I get back to the Virgin Islands and work with those professors over there, as well as the coaches, because I don't want to just interview folks. I know we have the ability to now stream them in, but I think some of these interviews we need to have with coaches and ADs needs to be in person.
Live, exactly.
So, yeah, it needs to be live. It needs to be in person. So now I have to figure out my schedule to make sure we can do that. So just I thought that was a big deal. So I wanted to make sure that I gave y'all kudos for reminding me that that needs to be one of the things I'm looking at. With that, let's get into our first break. We'll come back on the other side. As I promised from last week, it's going to be really special. We're going down from 14 to 8. Remember, we did the top 21. Mid-major and major division. We'll start with the major division in the second segment. We'll go to major division in the third segment. But last week we did 21 through 15. This week we're going 14 through 8. And it'll be fascinating because now we get to check with Brian and AD to see their thoughts versus last week it was Mike and Charles. So stick with us. We'll be right back after this first break.
Itchy, squirmy, scratchy, family not getting clean? Get Charmin Ultra Strong.
Go get them.
It just cleans better. With a diamond weave texture, your family can use less while still getting clean.
Goodbye, itchy squirm.
Hello, clean bottom.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
At Hampton Law, our primary goal is to provide non-traditional yet effective solutions and redefine the approach to client legal concerns. As your trusted legal advisor, we believe in sophisticated, personalized services that eliminate the confusion and complexity sometimes associated with legal matters. Our high standard for client care and concern, coupled with our extensive legal knowledge and skills, make Hampton Law a resource focused on the protection of the client's interest and overall goals. We value our clients and truly enjoy working with them. Visit thamptonlaw.com to conveniently schedule an appointment online. Tamika Hampton Esquire, 1631 Rock Springs Road, Suite 336, Apopka, Florida, 407-494-1471. thamptonlaw.com.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Stride K-12 powered schools are ready to put over 20 years of being a leader in online education to work for you. Dive into curriculum design for the online classroom. Team up with state-certified teachers trained in virtual instruction. Take control of your child's education journey. Discover the power of personalized learning with a leader experienced in preparing kids for a future they can be excited about. Take charge. Stride K-12. Enroll now for the fall.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want to law, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Ville's Inside HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. But we have in the studio joining me today because both those young men are on assignment. So we have none other than Brian Fulford and A.D. Drew of Sports Rap joining me today. So we're going to get into it, get a chance to break down the polls ranking. So I'm excited to get in here and talk a little bit about and see what's going on and get y'all thoughts on my rankings as we continue to move forward with that. Let me get in here with the top 15. If you would, Brian, go ahead and bring them up.
Let me ask, can I ask a question, Doc? This is because I noticed these are your top 21. What institute? Now I noticed it's top 21 in both divisions, and I may have missed this. What inspired 21? Why the number 21?
Well, you know, one thing that I always like to do is when everybody's taking rights, I like to go left. So that was the first part of it. Let's do something different because people have started releasing their polls. I remember being one of the first ones that had the polls out there. And that's not to say that I'm special or more important than everybody, because I think everybody should have the ability to create content and give their perspective of their top 25. But one of the things that I pride myself in is in innovation, strategic planning. So I'm like, all right, now we got all these other folks doing this. How do I move around and change it up? So it was pretty simple when I was debating. I was like, okay, do I do 15? Do I do 20? And obviously you get to 20 FCS. 21 is all of them. And then I was like, obviously it's about 26 when you start doing Division II NIA. So I was like, let's just do 21 because we can make this a 3-part series that breaks down real easy and simple. And so that's essentially where it all came from in regards to deciding to do 21 over a 3-week span to break down. And it also gave a lot more schools a lot more love, at least to start out the season before we get into the fact of we will break it down. So that was really the litmus test in terms of what that looks like. Obviously, the poll ranking is similar between what you all do, which is all just metrics and data, where the computer does all the work with the strength of schedule and other matrix that you use in terms of head-to-head series and things of that nature, particularly when you get into the season. But there's also a voting component of this where some people got a chance to vote that watch the polls and set up their opinion. I will add that this was probably the most difficult year I had in regard to FCS, just because there's so many different variables. Obviously, the transfer portal, we're just wrapping our head around that. NIL is continuing to heat up and is a different battle. But then you just had the natural attrition that you have from seniors graduating, particularly at the quarterback skill positions. We're questioning what that looks like for most teams, other than pretty much what most people would say the obvious top 2 with FAMU and North Carolina Central. Everybody else kind of has the questions there. Obviously, the change of Jackson State, which is significant, even though they feel a lot of Jackson fans are going to be in there. You still don't quite know what that looks like. New coach, new quarterback, different players. So I was like, it'll be interesting to go a little deeper to see what that breakdown is. Mid-majors, I think it's going to be the same test of characters at the top, but it's going to be fascinating with a couple of new teams in there. Had some changes of coaches that AD Drew made sure we were aware of in terms of what he does at SIC. Obviously, you got a new player in the business when you talk about CIAA, as we talk about those teams joining the conference. So it's going to be fascinating to see what that looks like all over. But that was pretty much what came together when we put this together. Thanks for that question, Brian. AD Drew, you had a quick comment that you want to jump in there? Question?
No, I just want to say, so 21 had nothing to do with your last trip to Vegas and blackjack. That's what we just want to establish it, right?
That's correct. That's correct. I'm a math person.
Okay.
So
I'm good with it after that.
No, I think it's a fair question because a lot of folks get into the gambling, and I think that's cool to connect the dots. I just wanted people to know that I'm like you in regards to economics. I'm a math person on that side of it, engineer. So I have never been able to really enjoy the casinos. Unlike my father and my brother and friends, I can't just get into it because I'm always thinking about the numbers that you're not supposed to win. And I don't believe you gamble like that. You gamble to have fun. You set aside what you can afford or whatever to lose.
True.
You create your formula, up, down, whatever you do that. And then you just have a good time. Obviously, you can be focused in trying to win a certain thing, but you go in there understanding that the odds are not for you, even if you have your formula and think that you can have something that is going to allow you to win more often. And then you all schematically do the bets and things, and it just fascinates me because I'm like, man, it's a different world to me. It's a different world. So let's get into it. I want to heat up the segment too much. Let's get into, as we get number 14, if you would, unveil number 14 for everybody. Winston-Salem State Rams, 3-6 last year in terms of overall, 3-4 in the conference play. Have 102 points ranked, so they come in at 14 in regards to what it looks like here. Let's get into number 13 as they keep moving along. It's Edward Water Tigers. Both of these teams is one coming out of CIAA. Now we jump into the SIC. Edward Waters, as people remember, they played in their first year as they fully transitioned over from the NIA to Division II. 5-6, 3-4, 112 points. If you talk to their president down there, he said, look out. Second-year coach, they feel more comfortable about what they're going to do, and they think they should be in a race. It's a challenge for me, Drew, as you know. I'm always wanting to say East-West divisions, but that's no longer what's going to take place for the SIC. Just one standing. So it's fascinating to see what that looks like. Get into number 12. With number 12, we stay in the SIC. We go in the Lane Dragons, 5-5, 4-3, previously of the Western Division, no longer as they were cataloged in that way. They are 113 points as they continue to move forward. Fascinating to see what that looks like as we climb up the charts. We get into number 11. What does it look like when we get into 11? It's Savannah State Tigers, 5-5, 3-4, 132 points as we're just outside of the top 10. But we'll go all the way to number 8, Savannah State Tigers at the SIC. Fascinating to see what goes on there. Let's get into number 10. At number 10, Albany State Golden Rams, 73, 5-2, 138. It was interesting to see where they are. They've dominated the SIEs for the couple of years. Obviously, took a step down. Benedict had that magical season, but they've also lost a coach. I know you all are familiar and probably will keep one eye over there with Albany State, with a familiar coach at the Hill, a famous rattler leading the charge there. It'll be interesting to see what that looks like. But they are in what would be a normal top 10, but they're outside of that top 7, which is critical this year since we're breaking this down from 21 to number 1. Bringing us to number 9 as we keep rolling. West Virginia State Yellow Jackets, the first team in this ledger that comes outside of the CIAA and SIEC, is 7-4, 6-2, 139 points. The Yellow Jackets are in the top 10. Bringing us to number 8, which will stop this week. We'll come back next week and give you your top 7. Virginia State Trojans, 6-4, 5-3, 140 points. At number 8, out of the CIAA, getting the Henry Frazier. That's Dr. Henry Frazier III. Can he make that next step? We have him in the top 10, outside of the top 7. Fascinating to see what goes on here. Drew, I'm going to go to you first and get your thoughts on those top next 7, 14 through 8. Before I go to you and your thoughts, again, it's Winston-Salem State Rams at 14. At number 13, we have the Edward Water Tigers. At number 12, Lane Dragons. At number 11, Savannah State Tigers. At number 10, you have Albany State Golden Rams. At number 9, West Virginia State Yellow Jackets. At number 8, Virginia State Trojans. Take it away, Drew. What are your thoughts?
Leave that up, Brian. Don't take that down because I need to look at that that graph right there. All right, let's start off at the bottom, Dr. Cavil. Winston-Salem State. Everybody has been harping on Winston-Salem State. They just have not got it right since the twos have been on the calendar. That's it, the year 2020. But Winston-Salem State, a proud program that was the winningest Division II HBCU in the 2010s, Dr. Cavil. A lot of people forget about that because they have been down for the last 3-4 years. Moving up the list, the next two you have on there, Edward Waters and Lane. I expect them to be improved. Now, mind you, when I talk about all these teams in the SIAC, I am saying this a little bit blindly because I have not studied the schedules to see what I anticipate their conference record will be, since we no longer have the traditional East and the West schedule that we've had in the past. But Edward Waters.
To that being said, I think it's important. A lot of times you're not able to really do that until the SIAC Media Day or CIAA Media Day, because they provide a lot more than information, and you just don't get that on their website, and you don't have as many people out there putting that information out there. So that's not abnormal to be able to kind of shoot from the hip when we're doing it this early. But I thought it was important to at least get that out there. So I'm glad you shared that with everybody.
Plus, the other big thing on the Division II level, you don't hear the big information about the signings that you hear on the FCS level. So a lot of times we won't know where these rosters sit, who's coming back, who were the transfers and everything. We know who graduated. Well, we think we know who graduated because you still don't know exactly who has another year eligibility left because of COVID. But, we don't know where these rosters will be at usually until media day. But Edward Waters, just keep it back. They lost 3 games last year, essentially, on the last possession of the game. Edward Waters were the Heartbreak Kings. And I remember the 2 games I remember off the top were the Florida Memorial and Clark Atlanta. Those just the 2 games that stick out to me that they lost on literally the last play of the game. So I expect Edward Waters to be much improved. Same thing with Lane. Savannah State, don't know what we're going to get with Savannah State. Albany State, Quinn Gray, I want my fellow Rattler to do good. But, anytime you've got a new coach, the passing game was not the best last year. They were a strong running team, but the passing game was not the best. And you've got probably one of the best quarterbacks in MEAC history. Let me make sure that everybody understands that. When Quinn Gray played at FAMU, he was one of the better quarterbacks in MEAC history, leading that charge. So maybe expected too much too soon out of them. I expect West Virginia State to fall down. Their Mountain East Conference is just tough. Nothing more about that. That's a tough conference to win in. Virginia State, can they get over the hurdle? Virginia State might be right where they need to be, might wind up coming down a little bit. If I think anyone is going to move up out of that 7, I think Edward Waters is going to be the team that's going to make this most significant jump in this 7.
Good stuff. Good stuff. With that being said, Brian, what are your thoughts on 14 through 8?
Well, I'm gonna skip past Winston-Salem State, an underachieving team over the last couple of years. They finally decided to give the.
I'm calling Steven and Tyler.
Look, they'll tell you. Hey, tell Chris Ferguson too. They know. Hey, look, the Rams have had an interim coach. The only program that's had an interim coach in consecutive seasons, and they finally decided to give the man the job after underachieving seasons.
Wait, Brian, say that correctly. The same interim coach in consecutive seasons. Make sure you say it like that.
Well, yes, the same interim coach. So, I mean, look, God bless y'all over in Winston-Salem State. But I think it's impressive, that Edward Waters is where they are, given what you just mentioned about their first year moving into Division II. They're in the midst of right there along with some household names. I mean, Savannah State, Albany, Winston-Salem. I mean, so to see Edward Waters there, and I do agree with Drew that I'm looking for them to be higher up in this poll by about mid-season. You know, so I think that's a good place for them. Lane was an underachieving team. I think Lane was the team that many people thought could compete for the SIAC, especially after they defeated Tennessee State. It just never happened for them. You know, they have so I don't know. Lane, you talk about teams dropping. Lane might be that team to drop. Savannah State, I think it's pretty impressive that Savannah State was 5-5 last year. New coach who came in on a short time span, because I'm not mistaken, the coach actually became the coach sometime in April. So really, he only had like 4 months on the job before the season started. So it was pretty impressive that they even finished 500. The two teams that I will say will break into the top 10, I'm expecting Quinn Gray to get Albany State passing game right. Albany State's got all the other tools. They usually recruit well. They've got guys on defense. Quinn Gray knows he's a good coach. I expect that team to be a much improved passing team, which that may be a shock to a lot of people who are used to the Golden Rams in that division. And Drew, I know you don't think West Virginia State will hang around, but you just mentioned them being in a tough conference, and look at what they did last year, 6-2 in that tough Mountain East. That's pretty impressive. Now, those two losses are against two very, very, very good teams.
Playoff teams.
Yeah, playoff teams. So if they were able to find their way over the hump and get wins over one of those two teams, they could find themselves in the Division II playoffs.
Ooh, nice comments by both of y'all. Let me do this before we take our next break, and we'll come back on the other side. We're going to look at, again, 14 through 8 in regards to the major division. But 21 through 8, let's rewind it and share with everybody what we started with last week. 21, Bluefield State Big Blue. 20, Livingston Blue Bears. 19, Miles Golden Bears. Number 18, Central State Matadors. Number 17, Shaw Bears. Number 16, Clark Atlanta Panthers. Number 15, Kentucky State Thoroughbreds. Into what we unveiled today, number 14, Winston-Salem State Rams. At number 13, Edward Water Tigers. At number 12, Lane Dragons. At number 11, Savannah State Tigers. At number 10, Albany State Golden Rams. At number 9, West Virginia State Yellow Jackets. And number 8, Virginia State Trojans. That'll do it from 21 to 8. Stick with us next week as we unveil the top 7, where it really gets interesting to see if your team, if we haven't talked about it now, are they in that top 7? It'll be fascinating to see what that looks like as we get down to it. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this last break.
I have in me the ability to make you a better you. So if you work hard, focus, stay on point, you can do anything. Trust me.
We made this track to tell everybody they can follow their dreams.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Kever's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KEAVERSVOICE.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
Remember the revival? Relive the remix. Reunite for the Orange Blossom Classic. HBCU Reunion Experience. It's year 3, baby, and we back with that fire. Calling all HBCU fans. Labor Day weekend. The I Love Jackson State University takes on the venomous Florida A&M University. Tickets are on sale now. Watch the game in premium style seating or watch it from a luxury suite. And of course, you know the halftime show is going to be epic right here in the 305. The sonic boom of the South and the illustrious Marching 100. Who you rocking with? The 2023 Orange Blossom Classic. Don't miss the HBCU Reunion Experience. Labor Day weekend, Miami Gardens, Florida, Hard Rock Stadium. Trust me, we'll see you there. Oh. Check out orangeblossom.classic.com for tickets and info.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. They're out on assignment. We have Brian Fulford in the building today. We're going to get into this major division as we also have an AD Drew, but he's been coming in and out. So we'll play that by ear and see what that looks like. But we get to debut the next 7. What was intriguing about this last week, Brian, is when we got into this. You know, we did 21 through 15. So I teased it out a little bit, and I asked Mike and Charles who he thought would be those teams that were some of the teams, you know, name 1 or 2, that would be 14 through 8. And they named all of them. They said Tennessee State, Grambling. They said South Carolina, Texas Southern, Morgan State, because I told them, all right, do me 1 or 2 out of the MEAC, 1 or 2 out of the SWAC. They chose different teams, but everyone they named were in 14 through 8, and they hadn't seen the entire poll rank. Just what was revealed last week, 21 through 15. So now what's interesting, they had on assignment, so they don't get to see the order until later, but I did send it to them. But I'm fascinated to see what that looks like, because I might ask you that, who's in the top 7. I guess it gets a little easier now because you eliminated all these schools, so I don't know if that'd be quite as fun as it was. Shout out to the lab listeners getting in here. But let's unveil it. Let's do 14 through 8. You've heard some of the teams, but let's see the orders and see what you think about it. Starting in the major division at number 14, those Tennessee State Tigers, 4-7, 2-3 in terms of what they did last year in terms of the conference schedule, 102 points. They're expecting to have a big year, but it's going to be fascinating. I'm obviously curious what they're going to do against Pine Bluff, Southern Heritage Classic, as well as Norfolk State for homecoming. It'll be fascinating to kind of see what that looks like. Can Mississippi Valley State get in there and do some things? We'll see what that looks like in terms of some of these key matchups. Moving on up at number 13, as we continue to move forward, we have Grambling State Tigers, 3-8, 2-6 last year. It's another program that folks say they don't stay down long. They've been down for a little bit, and many people saying, hey, it's their time to climb. We'll see what that looks like, 112 points. They were not ranked. They hadn't won the State Fair Classic in a while, so they've been struggling. And Prairie View folks, while they hadn't been able to get over the hump with maybe Southern or Alcorn, Grambling has not been on their mind in terms of a problem, which for Grambling people, that is a problem. With that being said, let's go to number 12. We have none other than another SWAC member, Alabama State Hornets, 6-5, 4-4. Obviously, they won the Magic City Classic last year, got a winning record, played Jackson State really close at home, but there was still some question mark. Quarterback left, but they have to see what's going on, what they're going to do in terms of the team. They had probably one of the better defenses in the league last year under what most people thought. Can they come back, hold steady on defense, and improve on offense? We'll see. 113 points there at number 12. Bringing us to number 11. Prairie View A&M Panthers. They've been all over the place. Had a winning record, but closed and bombed at the end of the season when they had a chance to win the division, but they live with that. I've heard they worked out quite hard because they were quite disappointed. They want to get back to the championship game and get it done this year. Be fascinating. They're one of the few teams that people are not really talking about that does have a quarterback coming back. Now, a lot of that is because the quarterback seemed pretty much one-dimensional. He did a lot with his feet. He was inconsistent with his hands. But my understanding that he supposedly has taken the next step. They feel better with the offensive line. We'll see. I'm not sure, but I'm anxiously awaiting to see what it looks like. Pretty tough schedule. 6-5, 5-3, 132 points. But some people believe that Prairie View is going to be one of the teams to watch. So we will see. Getting into that top 10, in terms of the top 10 team, we're going to come back. Those Bulldogs, South Carolina State Bulldogs, 3-8, 1-4, 138 points. Similar to Prairie View. They have a quarterback coming back, but this is a quarterback that everybody would tell you that did not play well last year. A lot of people were calling for his name and things of that nature and were really concerned in terms of his play. We've learned since then that people didn't necessarily release, and a lot of that was because obviously he had tragic circumstances that happened within his family, and many people thought that attributed to how well he did not play. So it'll be fascinating to see. Coach Pugh is another team that folks like Grambling thinks that they don't stay down too long. Obviously, just 2 years ago, they were on the top of the top in terms of winning everything, national championship, including winning the Celebration Bowl, 3-8, 1-4, 138 points. But it'll be fascinating because they're chasing between Howard and North Carolina Central for many people in regards to what it will take to get back to the top. Let's move forward and get into number 9, getting into a little more of that elusive territory. Texas Southern Tigers, 5-6, 4-4, 139 points. A lot of people are excited about the Tigers. They talk about the quarterback coming up, but there are some questions in terms of his injury last year. He has been out there practicing. Every indication, I've talked to him directly, he's feeling good. He's been throwing the ball around. So it'll be interesting to see, particularly when he takes that first hit, how does he play? And can the Tigers take that next step? With Prairie View losing the Valley last year, they had that huge lead on the road against Alabama A&M. And it looked like they were going to play a championship game against Jackson State, where they played Jackson State at home pretty solid for 3 quarters, and Jackson State pulled away like they did with many teams the second part of that season. But they're 5-6, 4-4. They lost to Alabama A&M, so that went out the window, and Southern was the team that was rewarded as they won the Bayou Classic and won going in after a tough loss to Jackson State. 130.9 points at number 9. Getting us to our final team at number 8 is none other than the Bears. That's Morgan State Bears, 4-7, 2-3, 140 points. A lot of people are believing in these Bears, thinking they're going to take the next step. We'll see. Is it hype or is it hardware? We'll see if Morgan State Bears can take that next step. Let's look at the entire 14 through 8, and then we'll get your thoughts. I'm going to start with you, Brian, since I started with AD Drew. Tennessee State Tigers at number 14. Grambling State Tigers at 13. At number 12, Alabama State Hornets. At number 11, Prairie View A&M Panthers. At number 10, South Carolina State Bulldogs. At number 9, Texas Southern Tigers. At number 8, Morgan State Bears. Brian, what do you think with 14 through 8 as we do our countdown from 21 to number 1?
Okay, so the funny thing and the interesting thing always about preseason polls is your reputation, whether it's your reputation as a coach or your reputation as a program, will start you off in certain places that sometimes you really don't belong. I'm referring to Grambling, South Carolina State, and Morgan State. I mean, obviously, Morgan State, Coach Damon Wilson, there's the respect of what he has accomplished as a coach. So we know it's going to, we have a 10-year window that he provided us at Bowie. So we know that eventually Morgan is going to be and get right. Is it this year? Tough to say. But I think it's awfully ambitious to have them ranked at number 8, in my opinion. Another team that is living off their reputation is South Carolina State. 3-8 last year. I mean, look, we know Buddy Pugh. We understand what South Carolina State is and going to be and what they usually are. Again, coming off a 3-8 season, I don't know if South Carolina State has really added anybody. I mean, they've lost NFL talent from that team 2 years ago, and even off of the team from last year. So, but we trust that South Carolina State and Buddy Pugh is going to raise his kids up right, and they're going to be a pain in somebody's side. Who knows whether it be this year. So, and then Grambling, I'm still trying to figure out if Coach Hugh Jackson, can he have a winning season as a head coach? He's 0 for 3. In 3 years as a head coach, he is 0 for 3. So I'm still waiting to see. Now, that's not to take away from the man, the things he does, the things he says, the social media impact, the impact he has on young men. Great, 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 great. Game day coaching. Show me that he is what he is believed to be is what I'm still waiting. And I think that is going to be, to me, of all these teams, the interesting story that I'm watching to see, is Coach Hugh Jackson going to be able to coach out of a paper bag and get Grambling above 500? Because I think 6 wins should be praised and celebrated by Grambling State. If they get 6 wins, hey, throw a party down Main Street or whatever the street is, Eddie Robinson Highway or Boulevard, whatever it is in Grambling, because that is achievement. If they get 7 wins, add 500 G's to his contract, because that's what I'm waiting to see, whether Grambling can make it to a 7-win mark. That's just my thoughts, Doc. I could be wrong. We'll see. It's a long season.
Man, I thought Mike joined us. He just went in. Oh, man. You need a little more time so I can get your thoughts in terms of, if you're saying 3-4 teams shouldn't be there, who you have in there. But with that being said, let me go to 80 Drew. If we have a little more time, we will come back and get your thoughts on that, because you just put a firecracker on this 14 through 8. I love it, though. I love it. Let's get into it. 80 Drew, what are your thoughts in terms of the major division 14 through 8 with our countdown?
I hope I don't have any bulletin board material to add to what Brian just said. But let's start with your alma mater, Dr. Cavil, Prairie View. Can Coach Bubba McDowell get over that hump? We know last year he took defeat from the jaws of victory with the opportunity to go to the SWAC championship game, and he just, I mean, he forgot that the football game requires 4 quarters to play. The Prairie View Panthers did. 3 quarters, dominated. 1 quarter, got dominated, which had them on the outside looking in. Coach Eddie Robinson, another one of your people who spent some significant time in Houston. You know, I was watching something on the 4-letter network, and they were talking about the kick six. You know, when Auburn ran the 109-yard field goal attempt back against Alabama. Well, I guess everybody forgets about the kick six Alabama State against FAMU last year, where FAMU blocks the punt and takes it into the end zone to secure the victory. Can Alabama State get over those type hurdles to get into the top 10? South Carolina State, once again, South Carolina State plays a gauntlet coming out in their non-conference. They not only play FBS competition that's at a high level, but some of those FCS opponents that they play are no cupcakes. Yeah, they've got the mandatory Virginia Lynchburg game on the schedule, so we know they're going to have at least 1 win going into conference play. But outside of that, you know, that may be the only victory that they have going into conference play. Eddie George, year 3 for Eddie George. Open it up against Notre Dame. Take the money, but damn, that's a hell of a way to open up your season. And I agree with Brian when it comes to Grambling State. You know, come the first week in October, pay attention. Will we hear rumblings in Grambling? They ran Broderick Fobbs out of town, and Broderick Fobbs won championships.
What you think they gonna do to Eddie George down in Grambling, Louisiana, if he can't get it right this year?
Good stuff. Good stuff. We're running way over time, but we're going to call this a holiday schedule. We'll take, I thought, as I said in error, I said our last break, we actually had one more break to take. We'll come back on the other side. I'll get some final thoughts on this, and then I want to get into some of your thoughts on the new guidelines that look like they will likely be approved for FBS. And then we'll call it an evening. With that being said, final 14 through 8. Number 14, Tennessee State Tigers. Number 13, Grambling State Tigers. Number 12, Alabama State Hornets. Number 11, Prairie View A&M Panthers. Number 10, South Carolina State Bulldogs. Number 9, Texas Southern Tigers. Number 8, Morgan State Bears. And both Brian and AD came off the truck and put down the hammer as they gave their thoughts, and they came hard. I like it, but this is my poll ranking. It is what it is. We'll do it like that. Come back next Tuesday. We're giving you the top 7. We'll see, can those top 7 hold those spots for the rest of the year? We see some teams that Brian said don't worry about in the top 7 because they really should have been through 15 to 21, and not even 14 through 8. But it'll be interesting to see who's going to climb in those spots as well. As we come through the year, we won't give you the top 21 every week. We'll have some metrics there, but we'll probably give you the top 7 instead of the top 10. We're going to make it a little tougher to get in terms of the teams that we're going to talk about weekly. With that being said, we're going to take a last break. We'll come back on the other side and get some more of these gentlemen thoughts in terms of HBCU sports, the sporting HBCU diaspora after this last break.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never, ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
When you're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics, there's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want to lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Live with Brian and AD. In our final segment, I got to get this out there. Stephen Gaten said, we're back to being a basketball school, and then he puts in parentheses, really cheerleading. Jeff Roberts says, I guess Elizabeth City State is in the top 7. Turn in next week to make sure, but you might be able to deduce that. Pretty good stuff there. Jeff Roberts going in there. So good stuff with those in the lab. Shout out to Chuck Harris, Chad Cooper, Silas, Edward McMorris in the building as usual. Appreciate Carl Moore, Stephen Gaither giving us some love as they check us out. Chris Tucker. Who else we have? Lane in here. Ricky Burton. Odell Benders is in the building. Carolyn Keelam, Varick Williams. Appreciate all the love is checking us out. Emma Price is on the beach in Daytona Beach. Well, I don't know. She might not be on the beach, but she is in Daytona Beach. Might as well be. It is a holiday. Get it how you live. With that being said, I do have to come back to you, Brian, before we get into some of this other talk. I wanted to know, so who did you think? You know, you talked about 3 teams, maybe 4 teams that you were questioning being in that 14 through 8. At least 1 or 2 of them, could you say who you would have traded out that says, hey, they need to drop out? And these teams, as I said, number 21, Delaware State, number 20, Mississippi Valley State, number 19, Arkansas Pine Bluff, number 18, Bethune-Cookman Wildcats, number 17 is Hampton, number 16 is Norfolk State Spartans, and number 15, North Carolina A&T State Aggies. Which 2 or 3 of those teams that you're saying needs to fall up while these other teams in this 8 through 14 need to fall back? Or were you saying it?
Well, that's hard. I'm probably a little more optimistic about North Carolina A&T than maybe some people. Obviously, maybe you, based on their poll rankings. I'm a little more optimistic about A&T. I'm less optimistic about Grambling. I've already said what I said. You mentioned Alabama State. Did they lose their quarterback? You mentioned that. The young man from Texas. Did he?
You have Albany. The guy from the Hornets, the Texas quarterback, the young man, he's still there, but the backup quarterback, he went to Grambling.
I also think, and maybe it's more of a shuffling of this. Like I would move, Morgan, South Carolina, down there with Grambling and Tennessee. That's just me in the shuffling. You know what I'm saying? And I think Preview with a returning quarterback means so much because there's only 2. There's only 2, if I'm not mistaken. No, 3. 3 of the 12 in the SWAC have a returning quarterback. That's Prairie and Texas Southern, and Florida A&M. Right, 2 in that division on the West. So I think that means something. And then, like I said, we saw Prairie View have moments where they were like right there. I mean, so I think that deserves a little more credit. I'm curious to see whether Tennessee State in year number 3 with Eddie George, it usually takes that 3rd year. I think this could be the 3rd year in which they very well could be in contention for whatever that new Big South OVC thing is that they put together now. They could be in contention for a conference title. I think they have a dynamic running back. And I think Eddie George has had time to sort of implement his style, his character, and everything that it's going to take for that team. So I'm probably more bullish on Tennessee State and North Carolina A&T than I am teams like Morgan, South Carolina State, and Grambling.
I got you. It makes sense there. I saw AD do shaking his head, so he kind of feels my 14th. But it'll be interesting to see what Tennessee State does. You're right. I know there are a lot of the fans have the expectation. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm. They got to show me. It's part of the point. It's time to show me. Get over that. I do want to give a shout out that I know both of y'all appreciate. Yeah.
I was going to go make just a quick comment on the poll. Doc, assuming that your 1, 2, and 3 are what most people are going to assume, that the 1, 2, and 3 are going to be teams 4 through 12 are all flawed, and you could really just put them in a hat. They got this that they do right over here on this hand, but over here on this hand, they got this other thing that we got to wait and see if they made those improvements on. So, yeah, that's going to be shuffling for numbers 4 through 12, Doc. But who, where, and why, and how, we won't know. But we probably won't know until mid-October who are the contenders and who are the pretenders.
Good point, and I totally agree with you. It'll be fascinating to see what that looks like in terms of those teams getting it done. I'm fascinating to see where we go on that side of the ledger, and I think you make a lot of points. People may be surprised at my top 3. I think the top 2 are pretty obvious, but there may be a team that slipped into 3 that's outside of it. But I think to your point, that top 4 or 5, the top 2 I think are really solid. I'll say 3 through 12 or 3 through 8, like you talked about, 3 through 7, they could be replaced by those teams 8 through 12 really quickly, and I don't think it would surprise anybody at the end of the year. So good stuff that you came up there. I did want to say this, that I think you certainly will have some thoughts, and kudos to this. Son of late Morehouse coach gets NBA Summer League shot. This comes out of HBCU game day, as you talked about, and had a good moment of silence and remembrance for Grady Brewer, the coach Morehouse College that lost his battle cancer. His son, Xavier Brewer, that started in Morehouse, then went on to play at Alabama A&M, has a shot and will be playing Summer League basketball with Detroit Pistons, which is really good to hear and really cool in regards to everything he's been through. Wish him the best. But more importantly, what I wanted to get into and kind of get your thoughts before we call it an evening and let y'all have the rest of it back is the NCAA came out with late last week, and we talked a little bit on the show between Charles and Mike because it just was announced prior to the show, so we were able to get into it. But since I got y'all on here, I wanted to kind of get your thoughts in terms of what does this mean for HBCUs as we hear the chatter every so often and really heard it with the super conference that many people talk about, the SWAC, about teams moving to FBS. But when that came out, some of the information there was really interesting in terms of the news. The Division I Council introduced legislation proposals that would change membership requirements for football bowl subdivision and make it tough for an HBCU at the FCS level to move to FBS conference. Proposal introduced into legislative cycle will be voted on by councils at a future meeting after membership feedback. And it talked about, if adopted, all FBS schools would require to provide 90% of the total number of allowable scholarships over a 2-year rolling period across 16 sports, including football. Schools also would be required to offer 210 scholarships each year, amounting to no less than $6 million in athletic scholarships offered by the website reported. Drew came on here and did some breakdown of those schools at $4 million. We made sure people understood that obviously at the FCS, that can include some financial aid, as we call it, granting aid overall. But still, it gave you some indication of where some teams were in terms of how close they were or would not be. But Brian, in our message board, as we talked about it, there was some scheduling talk that came out, if you would, in regards to FAMU and the schedule, playing Miami in a couple of years, and the payout was similar to what we saw with Southern going to LSU, $700K, an additional $40K, if you would, in terms of the marching 100 in regards to them going down there. You know, I quickly threw in, if you look at Ball State that plays them in that same year in 2024, their payout to Ball State at the FBS level was $1.5 million, almost, you know, a little over double. So those are some things that I want people to consider when they start talking about moving up, that also your revenue that you generate. Yes, your expenses increase, but your revenue also increases in a lot of areas that you may not be considering. So anyway, what were your main thoughts, if you would, in terms of FBS? AD Drew got a chance to share that and did a really good job of that. And he may have had some different thoughts since then, and I'll let him add that. But if you would share with me your thoughts in regards to what first came to mind when you read and saw this information.
The power brokers are adding one more step into separating themselves from everybody else. That's what the Power Five is doing. They've been allowed to do it by the NCAA. They've been allowed to do it by presidents, because the NCAA is made up of presidents. So presidents from the let's see, there's 65 schools roughly in the Power Five. So that means over 300 some odd, close to 300 other presidents have allowed the powerful 65 to be able to grow their football programs and almost create this division. What's eventually going to happen is you're going to have almost a Division 1, 2, and 3, not in its current form, but you're going to have the FBS 1, You're going to have FBS 2, and you may continue to have FCS, which, who knows, let's call it FBS 3, which is, you know what I'm saying? That's where I think Division I football is going. And this just, look, we're arguing about payouts at on Power 5 games and classics. And this is where the money really is. And so an increase of a transfer fee from 5,000 to 5 million. Where else do you see 1,000% increase, Doc? I mean, that is 1,000%. I think it's 1,000. I could be wrong on that, but 1,000% increase in 1 year. I mean, that's pretty much saying we want you guys to stay in that level that you're at, and hey, cut all this moving up stuff. Now, maybe a whole conference, and again, it brings up the whole notion and the thought that a conference or a group of teams together, 8, 9, 10, whatever magic number you want to make it, could all move up at one time, so that they already have a built-in game structure. They already potentially make themselves appealing because of their brand names to other entities, because they know the fan bases travel. Those are the kind of things that are going to move the needle for HBCU. But there's a lot of work to go. So I wasn't as bothered by it. I just kind of shook my head and laughed, because it's one more separation. And I think you're going to see, once these new playoffs start happening in the FBS, and you start seeing who those 12 teams are, you're going to start to see another cry from the I'm going to call them the FBS 2, the FBS 2 group, or as you might call the group of 5, because they will begin to cry and fuss about, oh, how come we can only get one team into this 12-team playoff? Because it wasn't meant for you. It wasn't meant for you. You know what? Form your own playoff. Be happy with whatever the money you get from basketball. But this money over here, this ain't for y'all. That's all.
That's for sure what the damn show's saying. With that being said, I gathered some information that said it probably is affecting some of those G5 schools, some that recently moved up, about between 4 to 7 of those, and maybe those that have just announced or said they're moving, FCS, maybe 5 to 7 of those. So it's about 14 schools that will need to significantly kind of make a push. But the rest of the G5, FBS, Power 5, obviously, are already there. One of the ways they calculated this is they looked at the scholarships over a period of time and what people already did, and they did an average. So I'm not sure if the number is as significant as it seems to look in regards to how they really calculate it. But with that being said, I do certainly think it's a message in regards to what they're trying to say and who they believe should be in this division and who shouldn't. Eddie Drew, any final thoughts that you want to share on this before we call it a show?
I just want to take a little bit of a different perspective. And for institutions who may, and we'll just say HBCU institutions who may have been considered in their capital plans or their future plans to move to FBS. We know A&T is one of the ones rumored to be trying to make that transition to FBS. But let's take these new dynamics of what it takes to go to FBS, couple that with the affirmative action decision that just got down, which may mean that instead of putting resources into facilities so that we can move our program to the FBS level, the facilities, the scholarships, and everything else that's outlined in that news release that you mentioned, Doc. We may need to shift those resources to other infrastructure, such as online learning, dorms, cafeterias, et cetera, for these students. So we may be looking at possibly a double-edged sword where teams may have been, they may have been on their plan to go to that level, but now if they get this influx of applicants, because especially in North Carolina, we'll use A&T because North Carolina was one of the schools in the lawsuit. Now some of those students may wind up coming back to North Carolina A&T or other minority institutions, and may force people to look at a shift in infrastructure needs instead of going towards a stadium or towards a track or towards a baseball field, going towards beds. So just some food for thought.
I think that's a great thought, and it's important contextually to think about that. I will say that oftentimes those funds, other than private schools, that fund is pretty much there open. But in most states, you can't use legislative allocated funds to athletics. So oftentimes those general funds are funds that are coming straight from students in terms of student athletic fees. So they would have to literally vote to change where they redirect those funds. And then a lot of the other revenue, as we broke down,
but Doc, you know those mixed use buildings that you have.
Yeah, but I'm saying that stuff is going to be legislative built. So it's not like the university president or even boards have a lot of power in regards to making a decision of where those funds goes. Usually they'll ask for that. You know, a president or board will make their request for allocations from the state and saying, hey, we're growing at this rate, and our expectation is that we're going to have a 2 or 3 increase over the years in regards to our enrollment. So we believe we need funding directly for a new dorm. And so it's like that funds that come in are going to be directly spent for the dorm space, and you can't use them anywhere else. So I'm just saying, you know, in terms of distribution of funds, it's not quite as open for them to be able to make those decisions as we may like to think. The other thing is that we also want to consider in regards to those funding type things. When you talk about a lot of places, they're not necessarily building dorms. They're building apartments. And those apartments tend to be mixed use where there may be some state funds, but they're private. So it's a private public partnership. So again, that's real unique. And so there's just not a lot of room in higher education to make a great deal of decisions. Usually your funds come in buckets, and that's pretty much, hey, this is what you're going to spend it on, or this is what you can spend on because of all the state legislative laws and guidelines. But the overall thought process in regards to making those requests and understanding that there may be some significant movements, and presidents, chancellors, and their boards, certain, and VPs of athletics and the ADs need to be thoughtful in regards to how they start moving forward with all these decisions that are coming upon them, along with the commissioners for that matter. So great point overall that you're making there. I just wanted to provide a little bit more insight and clarity. With that being said, I want to say thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Watch and Charles Bishop that are out on assignment. So I certainly wanted to thank Brian and AD for joining us. Make sure you join them every Sunday or listen and follow them so when they make or if they make changes, you can know. But generally, you know, they make it go down on Sunday, and it's really good because I close out my Sunday, get ready to work. I just have it over there funded either in a year when I'm folding some clothes or getting Deuce prepared for whatever he's going to get ready on that money in terms of the camp. So I just get to relax and sit back and get my talk in and type a little bit, and I don't have to drive the ship. I can just
summer camps.
Exactly.
That's a new promo, Drew. Sunday evenings with Brian and AD, getting you ready for the work week. You know, getting you ready for Monday.
That's exactly what it does. Make sure on Saturday you join Carlos Brown as he brings it hard and heavy, and then on Wednesday you can check out Brian again with his team O&G Strike Zone, as they can give you all the inside news of FAMU. Man, I find out so much FAMU news. I just tune in regularly. I be like, oh, that's what's going on over there, as they like to call the highs of 7 years. But they get into it, and they make sure that you know everything. And it can be all good, and it can be bad. The last thing you did, I want to give you a special shout out on that was very creative. Talking about doing is like you did the announcements of the year awards. I thought that was a great touch that you did, and a lot of folks appreciate it. Well done on that. Obviously, continue to check us out as we get done with that. Any last dime that you wanted to drop, Lady Drew?
Yeah, two quick things. I am now officially a voter for D2Football.com's top 25 poll for this upcoming season. So I'll be voting on all Division II football teams, not just the HBCUs. And number two, be on the lookout for a new podcast coming to the Black College Sports Network, the SIAC Gridiron.
Oh, nice. Good one. Nice touch.
This fall.
Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavil. It's breaking. I see that. Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watson and Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday. So tune in Thursday. We'll be back on it. Brian, any breaking news that you wanted to break?
No, I wish. No breaking news.
No problem. Look forward to Thursday as we discuss the latest news in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. That's DrKenyattacavil on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. DrKenyattacavil. Love the lab listeners. Odell Bender's jumped in here and as well. So appreciate you all checking us out. We got Morgan in the building as well. Karen Griffin, Kathy O'Quinn. Appreciate y'all sharing us some love. With that being said, we look forward to next week as we discuss the latest news in the lab. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on Twitter, Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on YouTube, and Inside. Make sure you like and subscribe. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon, Brian.
Of course.
Drew.
Lecture.
Dismiss.
Well, travel life.